our society and our country. We all carry that responsibility, and we must appreciate that. The press carries that responsibility because it has to report accurately. It has to report fairly. It has to do so with sensitivity and total respect for the rights of the people that you are reporting to, and even those that you are reporting about. You carry a huge responsibility. We hope to make that responsibility lighter. We hope to make you enjoy your work so that you are more free to carry out that work. We have undertaken to run a government that is agile. That is the word that we've used and used repeatedly. Agile. We want this government to have agility, that it must be quick to appreciate situations. It must be quick to devise appropriate interventions and strategies to deal with those situations. And it must implement those strategies as quickly and as effectively as possible. We are wrestling with two key propositions. The first I've called the is proposition. Where are we as a country, as a nation? We need to settle that proposition together. And when we do, we must appreciate what Benjamin Disraeli once said. He said there are three kinds of lies. He says lies, damned lies, statistics. Three kinds of lies. Lies, damned lies, statistics. We can marshal statistics and flatter and deceive ourselves into thinking we are doing very well, because the statistics that we've chosen to present are tailored to give that impression. If we try and do that, we delude ourselves. We mislead the very people that we are supposed to inform. And that is an indication of disrespect for them. And so we have to be very careful about how we use the statistics so that we don't flatter to deceive with the stats that we marshal. So we're going to speak the truth. We're going to describe the situation or situations as they really are. We're going to be brutally frank and honest about where we are at any given point. We're not going to paint any rosy picture that is inaccurate and dishonest. We're not going to look at any situation through any rose-tinted glasses. We're going to be very, very honest. Take the people into our confidence. That is the best guarantee that they will know what we are doing, and where there are challenges, and there will be challenges, they will understand. They will also give us their own ideas about how we deal with the challenges. So it is important for us to understand this. So in the context of the is proposition, we must map out, we must clearly define and delineate what the issues are, where we are, what the real situation is. And the next proposition that we are going to wrestle with together is the ought proposition. Where ought we to be? If this is where we are, and we are in a hole, We've got to get ourselves out of this hole, but when we get out, where are we going? Where do we want to be? That is the ought proposition. So we are wrestling with these twin challenges, the is and the ought. This is what has engaged philosophers of all colors and hues over time and clime. We are all going to wrestle with these questions, the is and the ought. Because between the is and the ought, there's a gap, there's a chasm, there's a gulf. How do we bridge the gap? And we are going to bridge this gap in a programmatic way. And programmatic reasoning, I was taught, entails, once you've understood where you are, you must begin to determine the adjacent steps. What are the immediate steps that you must take to get yourself where you're going? And we must understand this because, and I've said this many times, it's not about blueprints, it's about pathways. There's no ready formula. We're not going to go into history and open books and find a ready solution and call it something and begin to label each other. This one is not socialist, he's not capitalist, he's not, no. There's no ready solution. We're going to fashion the solutions ourselves together with you, the media. We're going to put these solutions together, informed by our own circumstances and their exigencies, and what we think will work. We will differ, we will argue, we will quarrel over how we move ourselves to where we ought to be. So if we understand where we are and we settle the ought together, when we fight, we'll fight about whether we are moving in the right manner at the right pace to get where we all have agreed we ought to be. This is the reality. And so in the context of dealing with how we get there, we're going to have to change the routines and the habits, the practices, and the attitudinal instrumentalities that we have settled in, our comfort zones. We're going to have to get out of our comfort zones, all of us. No exception. The better for us to move ourselves rapidly to where we ought to be. And so when we deal with this bridging this gap, we are effectively dealing with something that we've called structural ambition. What are the institutions that will carry the kind of society we ought to be? We must design those institutions. We must conceive them. We must imagine them. We must create them. And we must then deploy them so that they do not only assist us to get where we ought to be, but they sustain us where we ought to be. So they must be futuristic. They must be institutions of the future. So we are going to live in the present, but not be of it. We live in the present, but we are of the future. And so we must give our people a foretaste of what that future has. We are going to be the exemplars, the models of that future. That's what we are going to be. All of us. All of us. With all our foibles of character, with all our shortcomings, we're going to come together and complement each other in an objective way, objective complementarity. Where I fall short, somebody must step in and compliment me. so that where they fall short, I also compliment them. That's the complementarity we're talking about. None of us is perfect here. At least I'm not. I'm upfront about my own imperfections, my own faults and foibles. We all must be. For how can we improve if we don't accept that we are fissured, broken, needing help, sometimes needing just a hug? So we need to understand this. We're going to be agile. We're going to fashion and design appropriate institutions. In the fashioning and designing, we're going to dismantle certain that have been in existence. We're going to tinker and reconfigure many of them. And we are going to design an institutional repertory, an institutional ecosystem or architecture that carries us there, so that it doesn't become a society of personalities. This is a powerful guy. No, there's no powerful guy here. We're all powerful together. Individually, we are weak, but collectively, we are formidable. And this is what we have to do. And so, you carry this responsibility. I have said, and I repeat here, the job of president or running a country is the easiest in the world. I believe this with all my heart. It's the easiest. I've got the easiest job. Very easy. Why? Because I have you to think, to help, to design, to imagine, to come up with workable solutions. You have that job. All I need to do is to understand you when you speak, be able to interact with the ideas that you put on the table so that together we operationalize them. Is that difficult? I can make it difficult for myself and for you by being impervious to advice. I'm not going to do that. I'm receptive to advice of any man. So you must feel free to engage, to advise. And the press, don't flatter anybody, much less myself. Don't invite me to come and flatter me. No, don't do that. When you invite me, let's deal with the most difficult and painful questions. Let's probe together. Let's ask the questions. And when we're going to have a discussion, don't bring people who will agree. Let's be dialectical in our approach to issues. And dialectics impels us to deal with an issue from the point of view of opposing forces and views. That's how you have movement. Contradiction. We can't have movement if we all agree. We'll be stuck in one place. So we must differ. But when we differ, as we should, we must mediate all those differences with civility and respect. When I differ with you, it is not because you hate me, or at least I assume. Maybe you do, but it doesn't matter to me whether you're motivated by hate or whatever. What matters to me is the ideas that you propound when you are in that state. Tell me what you think. Tell me why you think what I'm doing is wrong and how I can make it better. I'm not about cheap political point scoring. I'm not about political sound bites. I'm not a sound bite leader or a sound bite politician. I'm about substance. We are all about substance. And when you deal with substance, you have no time for pettiness. You have no time for frivolity. You have no time for trivia. And so all the debates that we'll have, even in Parliament, and I'm sure you've observed how we've approached even the leader. No time to engage with trivia, pettiness. Don't play the man or the woman. Play the ball. For those who play the man, demonstrate their inability to play the ball. So if you're going to play the ball, you'll play the ball. You disagree with how things are being done, you are entitled to disagree. I defend your right to disagree. I'll give you the airplay to disagree. But do so respectfully. And that's what we want. And so when you also report fairly, report accurately. This is just to set the scene, set the tone, and begin to paint on this canvas. I'm painting in broad strokes. The detail will come. So this morning, we will be announcing to you the appointment of ministers, not all. We are going to take it in batches to give you sufficient time to critique, to analyze, to air your own views. I notice many have appointed. I've seen a cabinet configuration or several configurations, and I smile and say, the citizen is engaged. And at a certain point, I know the citizen will be enraged. I like the citizen when he's engaged. I like the citizen more when he's enraged. Because then they'll tell you what they really think. So we're going to announce 6 substantive ministers this morning. Say a few things about some of the challenges that we have. We are in a dire economic and financial situation. How dire we will determine as we go along, but it is dire. We all can appreciate. You know it is dire because you feel it. And as Rita Marley says, who feels it knows it. Need to listen to music, poetry, the arts. They are going to prove very vital in this unfolding narrative of this new Botswana, the Second Republic. So who feels it knows it. You feel it. You know it. As well as I do, maybe even better. And so we're going to start with installing the person who will be the arrowhead for our dealing with these economic challenges and other associated issues. That is the Ministry of Finance. And I have the honor and the singular privilege to announce the Vice President of the Republic as also our Minister of Finance. Welcome him, embrace him, work with him, help him, and question him, challenge him, give him love. So the Minister of Finance, Kosinati Ndaba Khawlat, he has a huge job in his hands. He has to steer us through these choppy and turbulent waters. And we have him there because we believe he's up to the task. We believe he has the temperament, he has the intellect, the intellectual dexterity to wrestle successfully with the challenges that we face. we also know that he will not mislead you. He will not hoodwink you. He will be honest, he will be upright, he will be sincere, he will be truthful to you. And he will let you in on the challenges and how he's wrestling with them at any given point of time. So we thank him for accepting this responsibility. That is the Minister of Finance. The next is the Minister of Health. We know, we've said, and the people have heard us say, we want universal health care. And when we say universal health care, we say so alive to this normal, where government provides standardized, low quality goods and services. We want to break out of that frozen mold and get into a different level of operation where every citizen is assured of high quality health care. And this must be regardless of their income status, the income status of our people, or their geographic location. We do not want an inequitable environment in the health care. Also enjoy high quality health care. This must be across the breadth and dimensions of the country. We've elected as a model of vehicle for the delivery of this to bring about a national health insurance scheme. We've said this. And because we are informed by human rights, we've asked ourselves, on what basis really should anybody claim entitlement to quality health care? And we said on one basis and one basis only. This is what the Constitution says. Every person in Botswana is entitled to, that's Section 3 of the Constitution, which the courts have interpreted to be an overarching provision. That's the nerve center of the Constitution. Whereas every person, it's not just a preamble, it's substantive, it's rights conferring. So it says, if you are in Botswana, you may be a citizen, citizenship is higher level. But just your mere presence here entitles you to these constitutional protections enshrined in the Constitution. So citizens of this country must enjoy universal access to health care. That's the basis. And we will now begin to introduce a health insurance scheme. May I at this time invite the appointee, whom I will imminently introduce to you. The new Minister of Health is Dr. Stephen Modise. And I would ask that he be called in. Dr. Stephen Modise. There he is. He's a good dude. Some of you might even say he's a good-looking dude. and I may not be able to disagree, but that's not the criterion of appointment. He is a competent, young, dynamic, vibrant, capable medical professional. Engaged in the clinical side of medicine, done consultancy work, has also been part of medical faculty or a member of academia, being an adjunct professor of neuroscience. So there he is. We have him there because we believe he's capable, and we believe he will deal with the challenges of providing quality health care. He will oversee the fashioning and rollout of the National Health Insurance Scheme. He will oversee the revamping of government health facilities, the realignment of personnel to the needs and demands of this new healthcare model. He will address issues of patient data management, deploying appropriate technologies so that the rollout of this system is efficient. It serves the people. Ladies and gentlemen, your Minister of Health, Dr. Stephen Modise. Dr. Stephen Modise will be deputized in the Health Ministry by Mr. Lawrence Wokeditse, beginning to deal from the bottom of the deck. Don't think you anticipated. Here to shock you. Here to shake you and to shape the future. Mr. Lawrence Wokeditse sits here as the Deputy Minister of Health. Without much regard to his politics. But it might also please you to know, and you may have picked this up during the presidential debates, if there was any convergence at all between certain of the political players, it was between myself and his president on the issue of the national health insurance. That you may have picked up. And so when he sits here in part to implement the policies of his own political formation. He's not being co-opted into something he doesn't understand or doesn't agree with. He's coming in to lend his voice, his weight, his capabilities to a program in which he believes. And so we welcome Mr. Lawrence Wokeditse as Deputy Minister of Health. The next one is a new ministry that we've dreamt into existence, and is the Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education. We made this vow. We made this solemn undertaking to the people. We entered into a compact with them that we would give them a Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education. We have begun to deliver
And that promise stands met, at least to the degree of having the ministry in place. And we have appointed into that ministry Menono Kafela Mukoka, Minister of Child Welfare and Basic Education. And I would ask that she be ushered in so that we publicly welcome her. Menono Kafela Mukoka. She tells me this is closest to her heart, that she is humbled by this appointment and she takes it very seriously. Child welfare, because we've said, and we've said many times, in appreciation of the challenges that our children face, we want to pick them up from when they are born or before, be interested in their welfare from then, see them through until they reach the gates of school, not just to begin standard 1, but early childhood learning. We have to make this available to every child in this country. It is not going to be a preserve of the elite. It's not going to be enjoyed only by a few. It is going to be available to every child because they happen to be in this country. They happen to be children of this country. And we will make sure it'll be under his stewardship that all this must happen. We've said we want to make it plain. This involves a revamping, not just of the health facilities and other facilities, schools. We want schools of the future, where every child is but a tongue-tied prophet, coming to have their talents discovered, their talents refined, honed, so that they can use those talents to improve their lot and to assist their country. This is what our education is going to do. And I made a promise to people out there. I said, your children will love school. First, because it will be hospitable to them. It will be their place. And you will be able to see when you walk in the fullness of time, that this is a school. And I once asked a question in Parliament. I said, what is a school? What makes a school? Is it some house, dilapidated, or however it may appear, with somebody saying they are a teacher and some blackboard, broken windows, no chairs, no books? Does that qualify as a school? What is a school? We're going to lay down the baselines, levels below which it will not qualify to be called a school. And we want to run schools. So we're going to ensure that our children go to schools, that you don't have to spend money on private, what you call English medium schools. Money you don't have, but money you are forced to spend because otherwise it would be neglect. It would border on being an irresponsible parent because the public facilities are substandard. We want to change that narrative. We are going to change that narrative together, and we will be shepherded in so doing by Menono Kafela Mukoka. Welcome and congratulate you for this appointment. The next appointment is the Ministry of Lands and Agriculture. That's what we call it. Lands and Agriculture. And here we must now understand, we must provide for ourselves. We must reach a level of self-sufficiency in food production. Exceed that level and go into exporting produce from here. And we need able hands at the deck. And
With its profound topography, Mogonye village in the southern district is nestled among the great warriors of the south who brought the intruders to their knees using simple technologies like rolling stones were known to inhabit hilly areas. The hills played an important role in helping defend Botswana against enemies, at the same time providing them with shelter and vegetation rich in medicinal value. In that way, each generation learned new ways of adapting to the environment. The hills became another important source of water for both people and their livestock during drought years. Here lies the spirits of men and women who traversed inaccessible landscapes, discovering breathtaking natural wonders. They traveled through the vast, dense, and impenetrable outback. 2 kilometers into the bush to the west of the village, a chain of hills rise, depriving one of sunlight and turning day into dusk. Throughout the year, the weird creatures of this locality are guaranteed a drop of water, a fruit, and above all, a home. This is perhaps their promised land, the biblical land that flows with milk and honey. The hills harbor thousands of residents, both big and small. These are the usual residents and perhaps the gatekeepers to the most precious cultural heritage sites. During winter, many of these residents go into hibernation to avoid extreme cold. However, there are those that defy seasonal change by staying awake, alert, and sometimes singing choruses. Hopuyangwe, which translates to the Leopard's Gorge, is a gorgeous creation carved out of rock by nature's unthinkable making. It is hidden uphill and not easily accessible. The gorge is not known to many and truly not meant for the faint-hearted. It is believed that dangerous leopards lived here since time immemorial. This is the view from inside the gorge. To get here, a narrow path meanders through the dense forest with tangled and twisted branches that impede smooth navigation. The vegetation is dense and green throughout the year. This is one of the wonders of Mogonye village, carefully carved and crafted to support the flora and fauna of this hidden community. The impression one gets is that of a film set. It is believed that water drawn from here is holy and can be used for curing many disorders. Fortune seekers come here for prayers and a bottle of water. Mogonye residents say there are supernatural
of young people being leaders of tomorrow. a tomorrow that never comes.
As a result, visitors are advised to seek guidance from the village trust to avoid unfortunate incidents. It is anybody's guess as to
the personification of hope, of promise, of uncertainty perhaps, but confidence. And that is the young lady, Lesego Chom. I did not know her. I had not met her until very briefly after she was confirmed as a specially elected member of parliament. And I was telling her, when I informed her of the appointment, that you and I don't know each other. We've never met. We meet in these circumstances. So you know, it is because of who and what you've been, not whom you've known or been known by. That doesn't matter. She didn't need me to be out there doing community work. She didn't need my validation, endorsement, or even cajoling. She did it herself. And her exploits there placed her in pole position for consideration. And the moment came. And so, like she said, if not now, then when? It's now or never. Thank you very much for accepting the appointment and the responsibility. We congratulate you. It may come as a shock and surprise to many. But we are saying to young people, make yourselves visible. Inscribe your own name on the gates of progress and prosperity and hope. And all we will do is to affix a stamp to what you yourself would have willed into existence. And that's what we've done. We didn't make her, she made herself. We just merely recognize and want to hold on to her coat tails as we move and walk together into the future. The last appointment we are announcing today is the Ministry of International Relations, into which we've appointed and we now welcome Dr. Penyo Butali. Dr. Penyo Butali. He carries the responsibility of marketing, positioning, representing our country internationally, regionally, in a turbulent world. He must be able to walk into this role and execute. And he must also understand the fundamentals. We are a human rights-based government, country. The animating impulses for us are human rights. And we're not going to go out and ask the Minister of International Relations to sanitize situations that are unjustifiable, that are improper, that are palpably wrong. We're not going to do that. And so even as he focuses internationally, we must understand that that international role is fed from within. What we do here, what we do to our people, what we do to the indigenous people, those people of this Central Kalahari Game Reserve, what we do to them, what we do to others across the country, is what will make his life difficult or easy. And so even as he focuses externally, he must have his eye on the internal. make sure that he keeps prodding us, pricking our consciences from time to time, telling us when we are making life difficult for ourselves internationally. You're not going to go out there and justify the failure to bury a human being in his natural habitat where he had desired to be buried, simply because he belongs to a particular ethnic group, hated and despised. You're not going to do that. I'm not going to put you through that indignity, that ignominy. We're not going to do that as a government. You're not going to go out and defend the indefensible. You're not going to wax lyrical about things and pretend that the situation here is fine when it is not. You're going to tell the truth about us, and it is that truth that will shine forth and speak for us. We'll make sure that we create that truth. We work on it together, so that when we step out